Right now, I'm working on this theme in my own life, pressing on when you feel like giving up. I just was down at an award ceremony in Florida about a month ago, and I've got this puppet opera movie that I made, and have released it just at Christmas last year. And so I submitted it to several award ceremonies, and we've gotten accepted actually at a few, and we've gotten rejected by many more as far as having our film in their film festival. And this one in Orlando, they said, "Yeah, we'd love to have it." And it actually was in the top three for best stage play. So a film with the best stage play, and it was in the top three. And so I thought, I'm going to run down there and actually go to this ceremony. I'd like to see it. I'd like to see what it's about. Even if my film doesn't do any better than third of the top three, that still was exciting to me, and I wanted to be a part of it. So I went, and I didn't win anything. And I the other 2 shows, they won the audience favorite and they won the, jury favorite, and mine was, left out as, nominated, which was nice. It was nice to see it on the screen. They do this Academy Award thing. There were about 1,000 people in the room, and they say, "And the nominees are," and then, uh, it pops up on the screen, and for best stage play, St. Nicholas Italian Puppet Opera. And it's got music playing and stuff, and people are cheering, and that's really exciting. And I actually had some thoughts, before it. I thought, yeah, I mean, there's no way mine is going to place anywhere. I mean, it's in Italian, it's a puppet show, and it's a little different. But then, as I thought about it more, I thought, it is an international Christian film festival. This is the only entry that's actually an international entry, not just a U.S. entry. It's got some character. It's got this art house feel. It's really interesting, a great deep story and deep. And so I was talking myself into, I might actually get, maybe the people's choice or maybe the jury choice. I might actually get these. And, of course, I asked the person sitting next to me, I didn't know anyone there, but I asked the person sitting if they could film when they announced the winner, because, just in case I won. And, I hand the camera and they're like, "Oh, we'd love to." And they're filming and they announce the winner and it's not me. I'm like, okay, I can have the camera back. Thanks. And I cheer for the others, which is great. You go back to your room and you just go, wow, I started to actually believe that this could be possible. And, and then you get that dashing feeling of, okay, this is terrible. You start going, and I'm bringing this Italian puppet show over this summer to tour around the United States and Canada. Here I'm like, okay, this is not going to work. And, you know me, Al. I can crash after,
You can, as many of us, your worst critic. But you have the
and
ability to press on. That's what I've noticed about you. You really
well,
can
and
press
that's
on.
what I'd like to talk about, because it's like, how do you go from, okay, this isn't going to work. Wow, this might actually work. Okay, that didn't work, but this might still work. And, or not whether it works or not, but, where does it stand? Am I just spinning my wheels, or is it actually making a difference? And then, do you want to get up and keep going? And this is the same whether you're in a job, or you're in a marriage, or you're in a situation with family members, or whatever it is. It's you can reach these highs, and then pretty quickly those lows when something goes awry. You don't get the recognition you wish you got. You don't get an attaboy. You don't get an award for being, me best father of the year, or it's like, oh well, after that trip with my family, yeah, no, I get the other award. the big, and it's like, okay, I'm a terrible father, but no, actually, I'm a pretty good. How do you deal with this, Al? This is the question. And you've been a few trips more around the sun, not many, but a few more around the sun than me. You've been in a lot of circles where you've been with some really big name people, big famous kind of people. You've been with street homeless people. You've been on big stages, and you've been playing to three people at a nursing home that most can't hear you. You've walked through all this. How do you press on when you feel like you're not getting pats on the back or whatever you think might help you?
Well, I guess there's not too many awards that come with just getting old. I've come to find that out. But you do have the experience of coming to that same place as you're talking about. The easiest thing to achieve, to be successful at, is to do nothing, and
Mm.
you
If
end
you
up.
set your goal for nothing, you're
You can be
likely.
you can yeah, you can be successful all the time by just not getting off the chair. I go through, and I think creative people to any degree, whether it's a famous person or just somebody who just enjoys something and writing or doing something, you're always gonna be putting yourself on the spot. You're gonna be putting yourself onto that. I've experienced the same thing that you're talking about more times than you because of the years. Where I'll be called to do something, and then I get there and I'm doing it, and I'm going, "This is terrible." I feel like I'm failing at it,
Mm,
and but then I get called again to do it. So it's not
mm,
it's kind of like not what I've come to realize, it's not my choice. If I wanna be okay, then I have to realize that would be the validation. I've told the Lord before,
mm,
while I'm doing something, I just say, "I'll continue to do this unless you close the door, because I don't know any better.
mm,
I'll go, I'll keep pressing on." And,
mm.
it's not always easy, but there's little validations that come along the way. I think, that after talking to you about awards and rewards, as you had kinda mentioned, might be a topic, I've
Mhm.
come to realize that there is benefit to both. Uh, our goal really needs to be to please that audience of one that we talk about. That
Mm,
if we can kind of redirect our eyes to that goal, then we're okay because it gives us a perspective that we need because
mm,
whether we like it or not as Christians, we still have the humanness of wanting to please man. It's just
mm,
it's innate. It's built into us. No matter what we're doing, it kind of we're looking around to see who's looking and who are we impressing, I guess, or whatever it is. We're gonna kind of default to that unless we keep
mm.
an internal perspective. Even a little while ago, I think I mentioned it to you. You had the passage for me. The idea being, as we give our offering, not to be looking around to see that man is pleased or we've already received our reward.
Yeah, Colossians 3:23 and 24. I can quote it and you can talk more
Yeah,
about it. "Whatever you do, work heartily, as for the Lord and not for men, knowing that from the Lord you will receive the inheritance as your reward. You are serving the Lord Christ."
it
Mm,
gives it a essential perspective because when you put it into perspective like that, it's like if I do something and somebody did give me that attaboy, like you mentioned before, then I've lost it. I've lost that heavenly interest that I would have
mm,
eternally,
mm,
and that diminishes, what I would receive just from that moment, that
mm,
ephemeral moment that, it's over with then, you know? I've
mm,
got it, they did it, it's done. It's like kind of the interest that you'll receive if it's unto the Lord. And
mm,
you know, that's a lot of interest, a lot of benefit that can happen. So on everything, really, if we're able to do what doesn't come naturally, put an eternal perspective to things, it gives us
mm,
the perspective on everything, on why pain. Why do we have to suffer pain? Why is this inequity happening? Why is this person suffering? Why did this person die so young? Uh, anything that anything that we go through will be nothing once it's past. Once our life here is over with,
mm,
then heaven, if we keep our eye there, uh,
mm,
makes it all make sense. And it's the eternal question: why do these bad things happen to good people?
mm,
But that being said, we are here. We are here now, and in our flesh, we are weak. We need it. We need to give it validation, and we need to receive it. None of us are big enough to not have some benefit from receiving it also.
mm,
I was in the shower this morning. I think I told you, Eric, those are the only thinking I do is in the shower, and the rest of the time, it's pretty much just kind of a void up there. But anyways, I started thinking of when I was in wrestling, because we would get awards. They would call me Blood and Guts Lowry because I often would get third place
mm,
awards. And what would
mm,
happen would be I was kinda new at it when I started as a junior in high school, and we would get in we I was always intimidated and with good reason a lot of times. but a lot of times it was in my head, and I would lose an early match at a tournament.
Mm.
If you lose an early match, you have to
Mm.
go into this round robin you end up working so hard to get an award
Mm.
because you know, the first place guy, he'll do maybe one person, he wins, then he goes against another person, wins, and then he's in. If you're this if you're going for a 3rd place, you have to keep going through all these other people that
Mm.
had lost or whatever. So
Mm.
I would get lots of 3rd place awards. I still have them hanging around, you know, these medals and awards. They were still important because I received something. But one of
Mm.
the things that I received during wrestling, this was kind of an interesting thing that would happen. I remember, that my family would always come to the matches. My mom and dad and my sisters would come, and it
Mm.
would be kind of an embarrassment to me, you know, trying to be a cool high school guy, and then, you know, there's my parents in the front row and the family, so I think I'd just kind of always be looking the other way or, you know, not really, acknowledging their presence. You know, I was trying to improve, you know, impress the cheerleader, you know, somebody else that wasn't gonna be have a li a lifetime, benefit to me. But anyways, that was my high school mind. But anyways, they were there, and I felt really good to have
Mm.
that they were there. And I had
Mm.
another situation with my grandfather who was always he loved baseball. My cousin Steve played baseball, so I think he was always the favorite. You know, I always felt him as the
Mm.
favorite. So one day my grandpa he came to one of the meets with my dad, and I thought, "Oh, this is pretty cool. My grandpa's here." You know, I it
Mm.
and so he was there for a while,
Mm.
and then he left. I saw him leave, and it just resonated with me to lose that, you know, it was like that I wasn't holding him there. It
Mhm.
was, even no matter how I acted, I still want you know, I wanted that validation, and you know, to this day, I still remember that act.
Mm.
So I think my point on all of this is, from a Christian perspective, it's really important for us to give the reward or reward, whatever it is that we can give to others that are
Mm.
that need it. You know, they just need some kind of a word of encouragement. We
Mm.
might not think it's much what we're saying. We might just show up somewhere, which is what
Mm.
happens with me at a lot of if I'm doing music or something at a rest home or uh, sometimes the people they might have dementia. They might just I don't see anything that shows uh, you know, should I really be here? But occasionally, now actually fairly often, someone will come up later. They'll just come up to me and they say, "This was such a blessing.
Mm.
Thank you for coming." I don't know if it was just because I showed up. Maybe I
Mm.
played a song that caught their attention and they liked it. Somebody that was working in the kitchen at the time when I'm doing it, they might come up and they're talking, or they
Mm.
may come out and start singing with me or something. So there's something that happens just from showing up that
Mm.
is, I think it's an extremely important award that we can give to someone.
Mm.
I think what God does is, you know, he tells us he won't give us more than we can handle, and sometimes we really question that. I do often. I go,
Mm.
Lord, you know, you misread me here. Uh, you know, you got this one wrong. But what happens is if I, even if I'm not coming to Him, but especially if I do, I've had some really hard times lately. I'm going through some right now. I lost two cousins over the last 2 weeks,
Mm.
and other friends and my dog, 17
Mm.
years of you know a close companion there.
Mm.
It all takes you know another chunk out of you. Everything takes a chunk out of you. My work situation right now, I'm going through some very challenging things that I don't. I had to come to him even yesterday in prayer with one of my workmates and just said, "I can't do this. I don't know. I
Mm.
actually don't know what the next. I don't have another trick to pull out of my
Mm.
sleeve. It.
Mm.
I can't do it on my own." What happens, and it happens quite often. Something will happen that's just kinda strange and weird, and it's
mm,
like, how could it's such so coincidental. I think others have had this experience, it's not unique to me. The experience of something that just shows he's there, and it's like,
mm,
he's really there, it's just this didn't just happen, and these, God incidences, I guess we call them sometimes, they help me to they help me to go on and know that just to know that he's there, and then usually things will also they'll be solved also. Obviously, I'm
mm,
still here. I've made it through many trials
mm,
and tribulations over the years, and hopefully, as James said, it will build a little more character. Uh,
mm,
these are just some
mm.
things that have come to me or I've thought about.
I love all of that. I'm thinking, the focus on the eternal, on God, of course, and the audience of one, but having just that eternal perspective is huge. I think just showing up is huge and offering what you have to offer and doing it unto the Lord, like that verse says, not unto men, but unto the Lord, and He'll reward you. And that other verse about doing your acts of kindness in secret or acts of righteousness, Matthew 6:1. Uh, Beware of practicing your righteous acts before other people to be seen by them, for then you'll have no reward from your Father who's in heaven. Your Father sees what is done in secret and will reward you. Oh, I lost you, Al. We'll see if you come back, but your screen's gone. Oh, there you are.
Um, yeah,
You
people
need to run. All right.
no, it's uh, yeah, they're I get my morning calls for setup, but I think that
Go ahead.
yeah, no, it's okay. It'll I'm back, right?
Okay,
I
yeah, you're
blanked
back.
them out.
Right. You're back. Yeah.
It was more important to validate you guys here. I'm always trying to, from the
Yeah.
early days, Eric, I have
You
to.
remember that moment where, like, your friend, like, steps out of the podcast that you thought you were, like, friends, and then they just, like, disappear?
Well, I usually assume
Something better came up,
that
okay, that's
I often assume they were raptured, and I was just, you know, I'm still here, and
I thought your phone died or something,
yeah,
that was making me feel better, but now that you were just taking other calls from other
yeah,
okay,
yeah.
that's it.
No, but yeah, actually, Eric, from the early days that we met, it was I was I was intimidated by even your ability to you were writing, you had you were doing things. So
Mm,
in our early relationship, I felt like kind of a lesser than is on the scale
mhm,
of life. So
mm.
now that I know you, I just realized no, this
For
is
sure,
yeah,
that's for
this is
you got
awesome.
the real me now, you got the real
Yeah,
me.
I mean, it's really the case with people when we get to know them. We've
Mm,
all got the same, like you said. I've met some people over the years that have had some prominence or whatever. But the more I know them, the more I see the scars and uh,
mm,
money, fame, whatever it is that goes on. There's still
mm,
th- we all have the same human problems
mm. I was reading a book about
and
Walt Disney.
insecurities.
Yeah, Walt Disney when I flew down to Orlando and just got this free book at the library there just to had a free table to take, and I'm like, "Oh, I'd like to learn more about him," and I had no idea all the trials and obstacles and everything he
Hmm.
faced. And his movies are positive and upbeat, and he intentionally does that and has this idealized view of the world, but that wasn't his life growing up, and that wasn't his life as he lived it, and that wasn't how he died. He was continually struggling, battling, but he was always getting back up and moving on and pressing on. And part of that really encouraged me, and part of it made me think, "Oh my gosh, this is just a lot of work. I don't know if I have it in
Well,
me."
that if following people's lives, following success stories, they're built on failures.
Mm,
Rarely will you just read some. Of course, we wouldn't be as interested in it as well. It does build that character that creates interest.
yeah.
Uh, to see it's like you all these things that went wrong, and if the person just hadn't pushed on
Mm,
to the next one, gone a little further. I read a while back, Ray Kroc, reading his story. So many stories. I'm reading. I read Patton recently, and uh,
Mm,
right now it's Ronald Reagan. Just
mm,
virtually every story has the same circumstance. I mean, if that can be
mm,
an encouragement to us that we're right there. We're at the cusp. No matter how far behind we are
mm,
financially,
mm,
things
mm,
can just turn around, whatever
mm,
is happening. So, and if it
mm,
doesn't, then and we turn it over to the Lord, then those failures are going to be they're going to be rewarded in heaven because
mm,
that and it'll be a much greater reward than anything that we can receive here.
mm, mm. I was thinking too of this the idea of awards versus rewards, and it's not really like one or the other because they both have their valid place. But I do think going for the rewards and keeping our eyes on the prize. What's the goal? What are we really doing? That morning that we had the award ceremony, I'd written in my journal. I was just reading it again this morning. I just wanted to ask God, give me a heads up. What's happening here? What are your thoughts about this? And what are my thoughts? And so I went through sort of this thought process that I shared out loud with you. Okay, there's no chance. Okay, there might be a chance. Okay, there are some reasons, and so I was going back and forth to where I could get the award or not. But my bottom line in here was, Lord, what do I say or think about this? And I just said to God, I love it. I love my movie. I loved watching it. I loved seeing it come to life. Lord, it's my offering to you.
Hmm.
And you know, there's the audience of one God, but there's also, what are we doing? You know, I put out the best I could do. We worked on this for 18 months before the premiere, and you flew over to Italy for the premiere of this show, with me, and about a dozen of us went from the US to go see it, and, that was really encouraging to have you just come along and sit up in the box seats up with me and just watch this and participate and be part of it and see it all, and, the 18 months of working on it and working with the Italians and, they don't speak English and I don't speak Italian, and we're translating every single thing on the phone to have conversations. And I'd been over there before and spent a week with them before we even did the premiere, and and then I edited the movie for uh, the following year after we filmed it at the premiere and released it the next Christmas, and that was a whole process in of itself too. But I learned a lot about movie editing and subtitles and Italian, and there were so many skills I had to use, and you put a lot of work into it. I put a lot of work into it. And so part of me is like, wow, it would be nice to get a little recognition from this. At the same time, the reward really, you know, is I had a very enjoyable project, a very delightful experience. Lots of friends came along, supported it financially, came in person, saw the show. People were touched at the show. We only did one show and we filmed one show, and then I put it out at Christmas on Amazon Prime. And I'm like, you know, I don't know what all God's gonna do with it, but my reward is, I put my best efforts out there. We did the best that we could, and maybe there's still things we can do differently or better. We can always learn. At the same time, I love it too. I love it. I enjoyed it, and now the puppet troupe is coming over this summer, and we're going to tour for 6 weeks and continue on and carry on, and if there's things we need to change or fix or tweak, I'm always about that too, and saying, hey, if it's not working because it's just not right yet, then, and Disney would do this too. He'd have his whole team animating cells, and then some new technology would come out and they could do it so much differently, and so rather than change styles in the middle of the process, they'd scrap 6 months of work and they'd start from scratch with the new technology and the new tools. And I feel like that right now with AI, I'm like, there's so much I could do now with AI. Do I start right now and use it? But in 6 months, the AI will move so much faster. I'm afraid I'm going to have to scrap everything that I've done. Or, when do you jump in? When do you, these are, I think, continual questions throughout the Renaissance, throughout movable type, throughout
Oh
Gutenberg,
yeah.
throughout Paul and the Roman roads and the shipwrecks and now we have trains and planes
Well,
and Wi
Eric, something that's coming to mind, and it's with you and with all creatives, geniuses as well. Um, it's the act of doing. It's and what does the Bible tells us? It tells us to be doers of the word.
Mm,
You know,
mm,
you could just be a spectator and just you could be watching things and looking at them. But I think our job in this world is just to do, he shapes us and however he shapes us. It's kind of
mm,
a scourge to be creative because
mm,
you're setting yourself up constantly for failure. It's not comfortable to
mm,
do, and the more you push it, the more potential to lose. And
mm, mm,
somebody pointed out to me recently the batting average of baseball players.
mm,
The greatest stars that we see, the numbers are so low as to what
mm.
what it is. We see that there's an awful lot of failures. But
They
at any
make a
rate,
lot of home runs, but they gotta take a lot of
yeah, yeah, the
swings.
home runs, we see it, but the Bible tells us to be doers of the word, so I think
Mm,
that biblically it's significant to just keep doing what is planted the seed that is planted in us, and I'm thinking of, somebody that was born 100 years and 1 day before me.
mm,
You might have heard of him, Vincent van Gogh.
mm,
Everyone would know that name, and they might not know everything about him, but they know his story, his the
mm,
ear and all that. He never sold a piece of art. His brother
mm,
Theo kept it, and I believe his wife Theo's wife somehow was involved with keeping
mm,
they otherwise, it would just it
mm,
would be gone. So he would create because
mm,
it was just within him. He didn't get any
mm,
money. He got no it was probably it was an extremely hard life
mm,
to live, and yet a legacy was left from his works that we benefit. The world has benefited from the beauty of it, uh,
mm,
ever since, and I think that that's our job. You encouraged me to do some things,
mm,
partly for my family. If nothing else, you pushed me into writing and doing some things
mm,
that some people have looked at, and I've gotten some encouragement from people, but I don't have any best sellers out there.
mhm,
However, as we said, I with devotionals that I wrote and such, it's it's there. It will be there longer than I am here. So
mm,
if it would, if it influenced no one else, but what if a great grandchild picked it up
mm,
and thought, oh, I so this is what
mm,
Great Papa was doing. He wrote this.
mm,
What did he write? And then they were to look at it. How do I know that I couldn't at that time, years uh, after my
mm,
death, bring a great grandchild or beyond one day come to the heaven's
mm,
door and say, hey, pops,
mm.
thanks for what you did.
If you found some writing from your great-great-grandfather that just you're like, "Oh, I never knew this existed," and all of a sudden you're like, "Wow, this opens my whole eyes to a whole new topic." In your case, the Bible, you wrote 365 devotions, 1 day a year. You went through the entire Bible in a year, and you've done this several years, but you started writing them down and sharing them, and, called A Word with You by Al Lowry. I'm just a little
Oh, thank
plug,
you, thank you. Oh yeah,
but, you can get it on
uh,
Amazon or, alanlowry.com, but
yeah.
I think it's nice. I've
Fortunately,
read
you
do
pushed me through. You made me. We did that. I finished it on our
yeah,
trip. That was part of what I did when we were in Italy.
when in
It was
Italy
the
for
end
the
of the year, and
true.
it's like it wasn't done. I
Mm,
never really was finished. Every time I looked at it, more editing would happen. At that
mm,
time, a lot of editing was happening, but you said, "Al, you just have to do it. You got to just make it happen."
mm,
This year or the following year, I guess I did more editing. This year,
mhm,
I'm not. I haven't touched it,
mhm,
but you can always improve whatever it is that is on your
yeah,
mind. But if we wait for perfection,
mm.
if we have to wait for perfection. It will happen eventually, but it's not gonna happen while we're, on this side of the turf.
At
So,
some point, you put your stake in the ground and just say, "Okay, this is
yeah,
what I have to offer. Maybe I can work on it or a different iteration later."
well, thank
Yeah,
you for being the encourager that,
yeah,
gave me the
yeah,
confidence.
and then you've cleaned it up still more from then, but it's out there and people can use it and get it, and I love that. I do love that, and it shows your faith and perseverance, and that's a lot of That was a lot of pressing on because you know, whether you have an audience or how many likes you get when you're on your Facebook posts of this devotional and all that plays into your psyche and your but you kept pressing on. So I'm impressed with you pressing on even when you felt like giving up multiple times through that project. That was a heroic task and it's a very large amount of words to write and then to edit and then to re-edit and reread.
Probably more work for you.
And there's some work for me just for because I just help you publish it and get it out there. And,
It's the
uh,
consequence of, encouragement that is the encouragement creates work for yourself.
yeah, yeah. Let's get this done together. Well, there's something to be said for that too. Just sometimes we need people coming alongside us and helping us. And sometimes we need to encourage ourselves and just say, okay, okay, we can keep going. You've encouraged me, of course, lots over the years. I think we met back in 2000, so that's been 25 years ago as we're recording this message today. But and you're on my board of directors of my ministry, and you become just dear friends. And over that time, beyond our ministry relationships, and so many times I'll pour out my heart to you and just say, "Okay, this is a low. Okay, this is another low. Okay." And sometimes you're like, "Wow, Eric, that is the lowest I've seen you go. You really, this is low." The crest of the wave is proportional to the trough.
It's been that way with myself, Eric. I found that the tireder I get, the more beat up I get through work and such, in life, relationship situations, it takes a stab at me, but what I do find is that and I think that would be sort of my closing thoughts, is not to give up. Don't give up on it because God gave it. He gave it to me. He gave everyone something,
Mhm.
and the devil is he's the perpetrator of trying to take us away from what we
Mhm.
should be doing for the Lord, what we should be giving to Him, and
Mhm.
what pleases Him, and
Mhm.
consequently, what award we get through the process. We get it.
Mhm.
It happens. It will happen through somebody saying something to encourage you, or just having some vision of God smiling. Satan doesn't win as long as
Mhm.
as long as we come back to just come back, get knocked down,
Mhm.
but make sure we just keep coming back
Mhm.
because
Well, that's a great segue into I'd love to for you if you have just another few minutes to play a song for us on the guitar, sing for us,
what would you
and
like to hear, Eric?
uh, do you have "Here I Am to Worship"?
Since I just coincidentally have the sheet in front of me right here
Okay,
with the
good,
words on it and a light on it and a pair of glasses
good.
and a
We talked
cable on
about
my
a few
guitar,
things here. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I think I will go
Great.
ahead and, play the one that's in front of me right here. When the music fades, all is swept away, and I simply come, longing just to bring something that's of worth that will bless your heart. I'll bring you more than a song, for a song in itself is more what you require. You search much deeper within through the way things appear. You're looking into my heart. I'm coming back to the heart of worship. It's all about you. It's all about
You, Jesus.
sorry, Lord, for the things I made. It's all about you. It's all about
You, Jesus.
uh,
Beautiful. Thanks so much, Al. Lord, be with each of us as we go into our day today and be with those that are watching this. Lord, help them to press on when they may feel like giving up. Lord, help them to know that you are there, that you care, and that you're cheering us on. In Jesus' name, amen.
thank you, Eric.
Amen. Love you, Al.
Good
We'll
day
see
to
you.
you.
All right. Bye bye.